So, this all started with a Ludum Dare 41 entry, Dog Care Center. It's a first-person panic management simulator where at any time a dog needs something and it's down to your pro gamer skills to meet their needs. This game is so good. So good that I experimented with my very own first-person shooter physics implementation. And I've also made physically interactive objects just like in Portal. When I get close to an object, my crosshair turns into this little hand, and then I can hold onto an object, I can let go of the object, and also, just like in Portal per se, I can do flicks to throw an object. Since the idea for this game was so heavily inspired by Dog Care Center, I wanted to make a baby care center. As you can see, we have this sort of Sims-like baby capsule with an emotion on top. And just in case you're wondering, yes, you can yeet a baby. So I had different baby states given by this emote here. This is happy baby, this is bored baby, this is hungry baby, this is baby that needs nappy changing, and this, well, it speaks for itself really, doesn't it? Sometimes this orbital throwing can be kind of hard, so what I implemented also was this force push, which you can see the circle around the hand, and then when you let go, you throw the object. So it's pretty neat that I can like throw and catch objects like this, and I can also hold down a button to force push it away. I learned how to implement these throwing mechanics through Stuart Spence, who has a couple tutorials on this. When I came up with this, not only was it a terrible idea, but the idea was so much bigger than my Unity experience, my knowledge of Unity. The idea was big, my knowledge was small, so this project got put down. So the project kind of went on the back burner until I was doing my masters, and a piece of coursework came in called Interactive 3D Programming, and they wanted a rather comprehensive 3D game. Why not recycle the daycare sim thing? One of the specifications was some form of physics, and I feel like that had it entirely covered. At the time I was playing a lot of Doom 2016, and I wondered, can I make a horde mode FPS style game using the daycare sim? How we got from taking care of babies to slaying demons, I do not know. The first order of magnitude was guns. So I used Bracky's tutorial to create some very basic guns. I implemented some physics to the shooting so that when I shoot things, they move around. There's all stuff that you can learn in that tutorial. And I was like, great, I have guns. And then I implemented ammo, so there was an ammo count in the top right of the screen. When you finish your clip, you have to wait a little bit while it reloads. So super cool, I have a first-person controller and I have guns. Now I need something to shoot at. There's a channel called Holistic 3D, and she can teach you how to make some very simple Unity enemy AI. I went to Mixamo and I found a placeholder enemy, and I decided to make him red in Unity, and I used Holistic 3D's tutorial to make some form of enemy AI. As you can see, there's an animator, but we want the enemy to approach us. So the enemy needs a way of navigating the level. So what we use is Nav Mesh. With Nav Mesh, Unity can figure out areas that AIs can walk. You can also use objects to cut the nav mesh, which are obstacles called nav obstacles. So if we test this, we see that the enemy approaches us. And for the most part, it hasn't got a great turning radius, but it makes an attempt to avoid obstacles. And when the enemy gets close, the enemy attacks. Also, I made some extra physics. When you kill an enemy, you can pick them up by their head and fling them around. In a horde mode situation, I don't know why you do that, but I implemented it because it was fun. However, one enemy is boring, so let's make an entire army of them and let's see how they cope. In video games, shooting down a horde of enemies is always fun. I added a health bar in the bottom left so you can see how much health you have. One of the specifications in the coursework was scoring. You need a way to score how you did. Here, the obvious score is your kill count. How many enemies did you kill before you die? Now the question is, how do you get these enemies into the level? Because once you shoot them all, they're all dead. So, what I decided to do was create an enemy spawner. The enemy spawner is this red portal. I'm quite proud of it, like it always faces you, and the enemies always spawn behind it. For every enemy you kill, 2 more enemies are spawned. Like the Hydra, for every head you cut, 2 more will grow. But that is how I am increasing the difficulty, so the more you progress, the harder it is. With Pro Builder, which Brackeys has also done a tutorial on, you can block out levels really well. I actually had 2 ideas for levels, one that was a tower and one that was a pit. So the tower has these like spiraling staircases up leading to where the enemies are spawned, but the pit is a spiraling down, so the enemies make their way up to you. So with Pro Builder and Nav Mesh, I can create levels that the enemies can traverse. Going with the Doom style, I threw down a bunch of textures, I put fire everywhere, I played with some lighting, and I just made it look a bit more metal. Now, because there's a health system and there's enemies you can kill, I wanted there to be loot drops, so collectibles that are dropped by the enemies upon them dying. And I decided that it will be health for your health bar and you get ammo for your guns. The original assets I used for this were not very visible, especially if there was a pile of enemies, so what I decided to do instead is I looked on the Unity Asset Store. I found some very Doom style power-up collectibles. So there's a green health symbol and there's some blue ammo, and I feel like they work pretty well. Another requirement in the specification was teleporting, and I feel like I kind of cheated. I guess teleporting would be just snapping you to a different position on the map, but I made more portals that lead to different levels. So when you go into the portal, you go into a different scene. So I called that teleporting. At this stage in development, I decided that the game actually met all the requirements, so it was time to put a neat little bow on it and put the little finishing touches. This includes a start screen with some instructions on how to play the game, a starting safe room with some physical objects that you can interact with, as well as some supplies, because you can make a mad dash for a white portal to return to the safe room in case you needed ammo or health. Then of course, yellow portal takes you to the tower and blue portal takes you to the pit. And finally, once you die, the game rubs it in a bit more before you retry. I handed the game in this state and I got 90%, which is a really good grade, and I kind of made it look easy in the video. But it did take a month and a half to develop, and I had no idea what I was doing in terms of Nav Mesh and enemy AI and hooking up a 3D animated character to some logic. I had no idea what I was doing. I just learned and forced myself into making this. And there are definitely problems with the game. The interactive 3D programming module doesn't account for any artistic flair, so the game is using off-the-shelf 3D art and it looks ugly in my opinion. The guns don't have sound effects. Throwing objects is nice, but it has no practical purpose. The portals are anything but smooth transitions. The game lags when there are too many enemies in the scene. This is because the dead enemies, their bodies don't get culled, and each enemy is made of over 55,000 tries, which is little triangles. And generally speaking, the game is janky as fuck. So I spent the last week seeing if I could fix some of those things and improving the game, so I better teach you how to pick up objects and throw them. Hold down middle mouse button, which is the scroll wheel, then hold down right click to charge up a throw. Now I've got some enemies lined up, so I'm going to try and get it to hit their heads, because headshots do a little bit more damage than usual, and as we saw, that guy just died. Another major improvement is muzzle flashes and gunshot sounds. It is vastly more satisfying to play this game now. And blood splatter, as you can see. Other rather quality of life improvements include culling, so these dead enemies are being culled away. There is a max enemy cap of 50 per level, which means that there's less of a chance of this game melting your computer. Finally, something that's very fun, is the shotgun. Very fun. Super satisfying. Look how excited this guy is for the shotgun. I know. Oh, it's so good. So muzzle flashes, blood splatter, and shotgun make for very satisfying first-person shooter gameplay. Also, the game didn't originally have a pause button, so when you get to escape, it shows you how to play the game. You can resume and you can quit out of the game. And for the sake of replayability, let me die, and you can see that the you died screen has how many kills you got this run and your last high score. I am fairly satisfied with how this game plays and runs now, so I have no qualms about letting you guys play it, honestly. Oh, it came back. And whilst we're all inside, because of you know what, I don't see why I shouldn't let you play it. So there is an itch.io page. I've never put out a game to play. It's a free demo. Play it and give me some feedback, honestly. Give you something to do at this strange time. Making this video and going back through the project and how I did things, I am almost positive that I can improve this massively. However, my main gig is a puzzle platformer game called Dino Dungeon, and I must make that game. I must finish that game. But, and don't hold your breath, I might come back to this, because there's a lot of room for improvement here, as well as the Unity Asset Store just had a spring sale where I acquired these skeletons. This fleshy red one is my favourite. And also I picked up this multi-story dungeon asset where I can make my own dungeons. This project is my side hoe, and my main hoe is obviously Dino Dungeon. And when I get around to it, I will upload a video on an update on it, so you should definitely subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, I actually have a Patreon where you can financially support these projects. If you're not down with Patreon, you can morally support me on my Discord server. Recently, in my Discord server, I've been showing off that I've been learning 3D modeling, and here's a barrel with rust. And if you like the sound of my voice, I have a podcast called the Super Salty Podcast. That was a lot of plugs to things that are not YouTube. Sorry, Susan. Smack that bell button so when I make something at my end, you can get it at the bell end.